Hey guys, Drifter here. I hope you like the new intro. A subscriber made it for me. I thought it looked really good, so I'm going to be using it from here on in. The gameplay that you're going to see is me using a variety of weapons on Plaza. I'm going to start out sniping, move over to the TAC-45, then I'm going to move to SMG, then some TAC-45 M8A1 combo to finish it up. I'm actually playing with a subscriber on the other team. He recognized it, and his self-proclaimed mission was to kill me as many times as possible. I think he's only going to get me once this game, and like right here in the beginning, I'm going to TAC-45 him all game long, so I hope he gets used to that. What we're talking about today is game theory. Game theory is a method of modeling decision making. It helps you break down very complicated decisions into simpler, more understandable methods, and it also allows you to see why people and societies and groups and firms and companies end up at the choices they do, even though it seems illogical to an outside perspective. This is useful both in Call of Duty, in real life, for a variety of things, and for dating. So I'm going to get some COD advice, we're going to get some dating advice, we're going to get some practical life advice. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's going to seem like it's all over the place. We're going to work from general to specific today. So we're going to start out with the general game theory. It is very mathematics heavy. It kind of started in math and economics and eventually worked its way into evolution, into finance. It works its way into psychology and philosophy, but those are all a little bit abstract and academic to be talking about on YouTube. Today we're just going to be talking about basic social decision making, like I said, dating, gaming, that sort of stuff. And the classic example of game theory is the prisoner's dilemma. Let's use our imaginations. We're going to put our imagination hat on today, and let's say that you're a bank robber and that your friend is also a bank robber, and you get this awesome gig and you do it together and you rob the bank and you're almost gotten away, but you get arrested. You get taken to the interrogation room. This is actually somewhat practical because police do actually do this all the time. So if you find yourself in this situation, it may be best to discuss game theory with your buddy ahead of time. What the police are going to do is they're going to separate you, and then they're going to not let you communicate with each other. You're going to be completely cut off from your buddy and vice versa, no communication either way. Let's assume that the police are abnormally forthright and they tell you that they don't have the evidence to convict you on the full bank robbery, but they do have enough evidence to convict you of a lesser charge. So, not bearing in mind your buddy's situation, if you go to trial today, you will not get convicted of bank robbery, but you will get the lesser charge, which is 1 year. You'll have to do 1 year in jail. Your buddy is told the exact same thing because being criminals together, you committed the same crime, same evidence, works the same way. He has the same kind of deal, but they tell you, if you tattle on your buddy and tell us that he robbed the bank with you, we'll grant you amnesty for both crimes, you go free, and your friend goes to jail for 10 years. They also tell you that your friend was given the same option, that if he tattles on you and you say nothing, you go to jail for 10 years and he goes free, but if both of you tattle and confess on each other, you both go to jail for 5 years. So let's go over this again, and we're going to do this from your perspective. Let's say you're in the jail cell, you're in the interrogation room, this is your choice. If you say nothing and your friend says nothing, you both go to jail for 1 year, 2 years total. If you say nothing and your buddy confesses and tells him you robbed the bank, you go to jail for 10 years, he goes away free. If you confess and your buddy is loyal and he stays silent, you go free, but he goes to jail for 10 years. And if you both have big mouths, you both go to jail for 5 years. Obviously, the optimal solution was to discuss this beforehand and take an oath of honesty and moral forthrighteousness and whatever you want to call it, to where neither of you tattle and you both do your simple little 1 year in jail and go home scot-free. The reality is that most people are selfish actors, especially when you get to big decisions like this, and any logical actor is not going to be considering the emotional appeal. So what happens is, and this happens in real life too, this happens all the time, like 90% of the time, 95, 99% of the time, this is what happens. All of the incentives in this game are set up on you for tattling. If you don't tattle, you take a risk of going to jail for 10 years. That's way worse than 1 and twice as bad as going to jail for 5 years. However, the alternate is if you do tattle and let's say your buddy is loyal and for some reason he doesn't, then you might get to go away scot-free. And if you haven't figured it out, what happens 99% of the time is that both people tattle and both people go to jail for 5 years, and the police are very happy because their interrogation methods worked. This is why in games like Call of Duty, you see people running, I'm going to use the Black Ops example here, like let's say FAL Select Fire is cheap and you also don't like the PDW and C4 because that's cheap. What happens is, well, I know everybody else is running this overpowered weapon, so I better run this overpowered weapon to counter their overpoweredness because I believe that's what they're going to do, because the incentive for them is such to where if they run the cheap weapon, they're going to mow over the people that are not running cheap weapons, and they're going to be able to compete with the people that are. So if you don't run the cheap weapon, you're kind of handicapping yourself, and as you see, people go for the optimal class, the optimal, well, we'll say cheapest. You know, obviously people want to win and that sort of stuff, and this ties into Call of Duty. But now we're going to skip over to the dating advice. The dating advice is going to be complicated, and it's going to be controversial. I lied to you a little bit about the male and female dating advice. This is actually going to be gay dating advice, so just get ready for that. Put your mature hats on. It's going to be lesbian dating advice. I had a subscriber come out to me and offer a unique problem, a unique dating situation that I don't really understand. I'm a heterosexual male. I don't do gay dating. I'm not in the gay community. As a matter of fact, I grew up in Mississippi. I know very, very little about this. But what I was able to do is I was able to use game theory and make a model of the decision matrix just like the prisoner's dilemma and come up with an optimal solution. But better than that, because this is real life and not a game and I can cheat in a little bit, I have like a beyond optimal solution for lesbian dating. And let me try to explain the situation to you. There are two girls, let's call them Claire and Lacey. Claire's a lesbian, she knows she is. Lacey is her best friend, and Claire has the hots for Lacey. She wants to date her friend, but she doesn't know if Lacey's gay or not. She thinks she might be, she thinks she might be getting hints, but she's not entirely sure, and she doesn't want to ask Lacey out, because if she asks out Lacey and she's straight, then she gets outed. She can't come out of the closet because it's a bigoted area, because her family would reject her, because she just doesn't feel like it. Whatever reason, I actually didn't get the reason for this, but coming out of the closet was not an option. It would be a very bad thing. If you ask a straight person on a gay date, you're going to get outed. That's just kind of how that works. However, she was unsure because Lacey also had a boyfriend, and was unsure if the boyfriend was there for looks, or maybe she was bi, or maybe she really was straight. We're not sure. We have a lot of uncertainty here, and the question to me was, should I ask this girl out on a date? It's a big risk for me, but it's something that I really, really want, and I was put off by this. This is just way beyond my scope and realm of decision making, but I used game theory, and I came up with these two matrices in my head. I did this in my head very quickly, but I'm going to show you the paperwork here. I made these in Paint. They're really awesome like that, and you can kind of see how I've been thinking about this. I made the decision making. Let's say Claire's got two choices. She's gay, she knows Lacey, you don't know Lacey. She can do nothing, or she can ask her friend out. Lacey has a little bit of a more complicated tree. She's got three different decisions. She can be straight, which is going to be a rejection. She can be gay and accept the date, or she can be gay and reject for various reasons. Maybe they're just not her type. Maybe she wanted a butch girl. Maybe she wanted a skinny girl. I don't know how this whole thing works out. Not really my area. But this is the decision matrix. If Claire does nothing, then, and you know, let's say Lacey's straight, friends forever. If Claire does nothing and she's gay, whether she was interested or not, they still maintain friends. That block, I guess, depending on how you want to set this problem up, is all positive. But the problem that Claire expressed to me was that she wanted to be more than friends, and she was willing to risk the friendship to get a date or to get this going on. So when you look at the asking out tree, this gets more complicated. She asks her out if she's straight, not friends, probably going to get outed. If she asks her out, if Lacey's gay and accept, you now your girlfriends, you're making out, you got some lesbian stuff, you put it on TV, whatever. And obviously if she's gay and she just not interested, then she can lose the friendship, and depending on if it's public or not, or just depending on the situation, she can be outed again. And as you can see, only one of those boxes is an acceptable outcome because, again, as the problem was expressed, the friendship was willing to be risked. So we've only got 1 out of 6 boxes, or approximately a 17% chance that Claire gets what she wants. And this is a complicated decision. However, using the game theory, I've got all of the outcomes here. I can see what can happen in any sort of situation. And the nice thing about real life is that you can cheat a little bit. In the game theory examples, you were limited in various ways. We were setting the rules up. They do this because they like to be mathematically correct, because you can't take this sort of stuff and publish it in an academic paper and just say, well, we're going to cheat and we're going to do this. We're going to cut this corner here and make that assumption. But thankfully, real life, you get a little bit more wiggle room. My advice was relatively simple. I was like, okay, well, how about we get rid of the do nothing section, because you said you're going to go ahead and risk the relationship. And number 2, we need to set up a gay test. We need to see if Lacey is gay or not, or if she's bi, or if she's interested, or what is this? Because if you're able to find out with 100% certainty that she's straight, then you know not to do anything. You know you can just leave that alone and you can stay friends. However, if you're able to find out that she is gay, if she somehow passes the gay test or shows up on the gaydar or definitely is a lesbian, this, again, I said this, like, this is not my area of expertise. You're going to have to do this part or snoop around on the computer or look for some adult material somewhere. But if you can prove that she would be interested in another woman, then we can completely eliminate the straight box and the do nothing box, and we're left with this new 50-50 matrix, which I made here, which is less that we know we don't want to be friends anymore, we know we want to ask her out, and we know she's gay. So This is what we've got. She can be gay and she can accept you, and then your girlfriends and everything is great. Or the risky part is she can be gay and still just not be interested in you and turn you down. However, the probability of success just jumped from 17% all the way up to 50%. And I say that's a massive improvement. And based on that, you can judge your actions better. You can weigh your risk against the rewards. And I hope that I was able to help this person, but this is how game theory works. I use the example not because I want to come out with gay rights or any of that sort of stuff. That's not really what I'm doing here on the channel. But it was almost a perfect example of a decision, a very complicated, weird decision that I was unfamiliar with that came in from nowhere that I feel, at least hopefully, that I was able to adequately solve using game theory. And you can do this too. Any kind of decision that you have to make that's multivariable, that there's too many things going on, just make these little charts. If you get more than 3 or 4 different variables, it's complicated, and it works best with interpersonal dynamics because we're basically basing this off the prisoner's dilemma. There's way more complicated ones, but they're mathematically heavy. If it's just 1v1 or maybe 2v2 or something like that, you can make these charts. It works very, very well. And I hope that you do that. I hope that you kind of understand how this works and the prisoner's dilemma, how it applies to Call of Duty, and why everybody likes to use their overpowered weapons and all that sort of stuff. I hope that you learned something today. I hope that you apply game theory and the decision making in your life and Call of Duty and these other sort of things. And the question I want to pose to you is just like the prisoner's dilemma. Obviously, the first will say box, though everybody keeps their mouth shut. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. Everybody's the good person and doesn't tattle. You get 1 year. It's better for everybody, but all the incentives are stacked against that. You have to be the person that bucks the odds, that doesn't confess, that doesn't act selfishly, that acts in an actually irrational manner for the good of the group, and then the world becomes a better place. That's how it works. That's how it can work, but that's not currently how it works. Anyway, I hope you learned something. Drifter out.